I'm not sure if y'all are expert whittlers. Most people, real good whittlers, they look up while they're whittling. Yeah, don't cut your finger off, though. Rutledge, and privileged to have Miss Virginia Leedy, and she's going to be talking to a guest that's been extremely nice and cooperative with us, and they're going to be talking about the history of Rutledge. And at this time, Miss Leedy, if you would like to, I'd like for you to introduce the young lady we've got here and go ahead and talk a little bit about the history of Rutledge.
We're sitting on the lovely porch of the ancestral home of Mildred Marshal. And Mildred is going to give you a little of the background of this home of hers.
The land on which this residence is located was purchased in 1869, the month of June, from Mr. Warham Easley Jr. The house was begun to be erected in the same year and was finished a number of years later. The property at that time included 148 acres and 29 homes. It was purchased by Dr. Joseph Huffmaster, a physician who resided in and practiced at that time in Rutledge, being one of the few physicians during the Civil War that was commissioned by both sides of the Army to administer to the physical needs of the soldiers in this area. He was a descendant from the first Huffmaster who arrived in Rogersville, where the location of the original Huffmaster farm and residence from Germany. The three brothers, in time, as many other people did, immigrated gradually to the West. He resided here while the others went further. He later married Nancy B. Huddleston of Union County, having formerly been married to Miss Tate, whose parents for a number of years resided and were proprietors of Hay Springs Hotel. Dr. and Ms. Huffmaster had one daughter, who was named, in part, for Dr. Huffmaster, Elsie Jo Henderson. She later resided here in Rutledge, in the ancestral home. Ms. Huffmaster's daughter later married G. Macklin, often referred to as Mac Henderson, who was first an attorney here in Rutledge in cooperation with Mr. Arthur Bryant. After serving here a long time in that capacity, he became judge of the 2nd Judicial District, or Circuit, and later Attorney General for this area, same circuit, and served in both capacities for 16 years each. Prior to the time, however, that he became judge, a lawyer and judge, he taught school for 1 year after graduating from Carson College in Madison Academy, where he originally met his wife-to-be, namely Mary Elizabeth Huffman. As time went by, he also was the originator of and president of the People's Bank of Rutledge. In this capacity, he served for some while. He was active in the Odd Fellows organization and in the Masons within his own town. He too served as president of what was then known as the Merchants Bank, Morristown, Cumberland County, for a number of years. Then it was that he, after serving in this capacity for a number of years, retired from practice, only special practice of special cases, and moved his law practice to the residence of his home. Elsie Henderson married Olin R. Marshal of Bryant, November the 4th, 1914. There they resided for a number of years. To this union were born 2 sons, 2 children, Mildred Marshal and a twin, Maxwell Marshal. The former still living. The latter died when quite young. Olin H. Marshal later was born to the union. He has become the 5th generation to reside in the homestead in Rutledge.
That's great.
Coming here after being born and reared in Rutledge, Bradenton, Florida, and then serving this country for a number of years in World War II.
Okay.
Mildred's occupation was that of a teacher and guidance counselor, having served as the 2nd historian of Grainger County for a number of years. G. McHenderson, fondly known as G. Mac, read law under Mr. John Yo of Jefferson City before his practicing here in Rutledge. It was later then that he moved and enlarged the home place. The original home place consists of a 4-room house built on solid rock with the underpinning of huge logs. But over the years, it was added to as more need arose. After Dr. Huffmaster became a physician here, practicing physician here, he added the first portion to be added, formulating his office within the residence. Then, as time passed, he established the first drugstore and apothecary shop here in Rutledge. It was located on the spot where the parking lot presently is that adjoins Dr. Brown and Dr. Hill's office.
Okay.
In turn, Dr. Joseph Huffmaster Campbell was named for Dr. Joseph Huffmaster and read medicine under him.
Okay.
Thus we see that the name was passed down through relatives for several generations. Now, with reference to the Presbyterian Church, the original structure of the Presbyterian Church had earlier served as the first courthouse in Rutledge, having been situated on the spot where the courthouse by junction here in Rutledge between the courthouse and post office and the private drive up to the Marshal residence. As the new courthouse was built on the, as the second courthouse was built on the spot where the one now stands, the first courthouse was then abandoned and served for a period of while as the residence of the worshiping congregation of the Presbyterian Church, which is the oldest denomination in Rutledge, from which both the Methodist and Baptist denominations withdrew at intervals and formed their own denomination much later. After this new church had been erected to make a better access to the Marshal residence and Marshal farm, then known as Richland Valley Farm and now as Glencrest, it was true that Judge Henderson, along with Dr. Huffmaster, gave the same portion of land from the front field that lies directly in front of the residence to the colored people of Rutledge, that there they might still continue their worship. Then it was that the new structure was built where it now stands in Rutledge, because of their appreciation for what had been done for them. They gave it the name which it yet bears, Henderson Chapel.
Okay, I understand that the bridge was named in honor of your family. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
The bridge that spans the Holston River on the Grainger County side was constructed within recent years and by act of legislature was given the name Olin R. Bryant,
Okay.
Marshal Memorial Bridge, due to the fact that it was he who was a businessman in Morristown for a number of years, having operated and established and operated Jones Marshall Lumber Company, beginning the operation when he was quite a young lad.
Mm-hmm.
Later, it has become Hamlin Lumber Company and is yet on the spot. It was later 18th century that it was established.
Okay.
Operated by his son, who was in business with him prior to his service connections for his country, and now is proprietor of the lumber plant.
Okay,
in Morristown.
right. We really appreciate that.
When Mildred and I were little girls, you didn't jump in a car and go from here to there in Rutledge like you do now. You walked. And I grew up with the Bryants. My mother was a Bryant, and most of my younger years I lived with my grandmother Bryant and a maiden aunt and my mother on what later became known as Bryan's Curve, because it was noted after the automobile came into existence, it was noted for the many wrecks that we had there. But when Mildred and her mother and grandmother would decide to come to visit my people, they usually walked. It was about a mile, maybe a little more, but that didn't mean too much then. So they would walk down in the morning. You see, then you didn't just go for a few minutes. You went and spent the day.
Right.
So we would, they would come, and Grandmother Bryan would probably have some food prepared that sometime during the day we would eat. But mostly it was just talk. And then we'd sit on our front porch and rehash all of the events. And there were some social events even then.
Right.
And Mildred and I, that didn't interest us very much. So I had a little tea set that someone had given me. Had the cups and the saucers and the little plates and the teapot. And we would get pretend cakes and maybe some water in the teapot. And we'd slip around the corner of the house and set us out a little table. And we had a tea party.
Right.
And that was one of the events of our little lives at that time. And when we would walk up here, and we have pretty much the same type of entertainment here. And I feel that we certainly owe Mildred a vote of thanks for the time that she has given us today. We've been having a modern tea party with her,
Right.
as she
Right.
told us about her ancestral home. And I certainly appreciate it, and I'm sure that all the people who see the results will appreciate it.
Right. I'd like to take this time to really show my appreciation to her for giving us this time, and I really appreciate you doing this for the school kids in the future and whoever is interested in keeping up with the history of Grainger County. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm here today at Jarnigan's Motor Company, and it's a pleasure to interview Mr. Bill Jarnigan. He's taking his time out today and going to help us a little bit on the history of Rutledge. And Mr. Jarnigan, if you'd like to, I'd like for you to tell us how old you are, sir.
Well, I'm 91 right now. Like about 4 months and 2 days being 92.
Okay. I understand that you've been in the automobile business a long time, and I'd just like you to kind of feel free there and just go ahead and talk.
Yeah, around 70 years old, says. I started in the car business, that is a mechanic in Knoxville, about 15, I guess. So there's a lot of experience there before I come up here.
I understand you used to operate and do a little dealings out of old Take Springs at Bean Station.
That's when I opened up in 17. Mr. John signed the contract for more than 16. We got our first car down in the south here, early 17, I guess around April 17. Then he got in touch with me, and I went up and with him and unloaded the first car with a key model there, probably April 17. And we had never seen a car load set up, and I had to figure it all out how to get them unloaded, knocked down, and we had to assemble them.
Right.
Get them so we could drive them up to Take Spring Hotel there. Wheels and things on, and then we had to finish assembling them after we got them up there.
You were showing me the other day where you had a patent. I was watching a TV show where they'd interviewed you about that.
I got a patent on unloading, of course. We had to carry them out then, the chassis. Set the cross ties down and set the chassis on, bring the wheels, put them on. So we had to ship them, have them pre-shipped to Knoxville.
Mm-hmm.
We shipped them down there, we had a platform, and I got a patent there about 20 of them, and sold a bunch of those trucks that were unloading to the dealers all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
And they worked out overnight, so 26, but then they started assembling them. That's down with my
Down where you patent. Okay. Right. The detail and tell us a little bit about what Rutledge looked like and what the businesses was back when you first started dealing around in this area, Mr. Jarnigan.
Well, see, we had a railroad through here then, what's called a P-line, cart and north to the Marshal down, and that run up to 29 and 30, and then when they shipped about everything out, timber and everything, and when they pulled that P-line out, and we were lost then with that railroad, you know, so we had to ship our cars to Knoxville. Before that, there on account of no platform to get unloaded.
Right.
So, I sold business down here in the county then. There's lots of timber and cross ties and everything that was hauled in here. Some of them used, some of them sold. Most of them earlier was heating business.
Yeah, right.
Bark knocked off of them, flattened out. So there's been a lot of changes since then. Poured into the city here now, that gives us more room for transportation.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of changes since 17.
You used to tell me about, you could remember down at the old jail there where they went in the bridge and people had to get across, I guess, the best way they knew how. It's probably a shallow area.
That old jail, they break out every week. They knock holes out around the chimney, get crowbars in there, and we got to weld all themselves back up. That time breaking out, she's way down by itself, nobody guarded it, you know.
Uh-huh.
They getting out all the time. You couldn't make it safe, or something, didn't want to get out.
Right. You was one of the first people, I guess, to go in business here.
Well, there's stores here. Had a hardware store here, grocery store. Mr. Nancy's up there, yard restaurant. And before I come here, I worked out a week or two up around that garage there where the post office is now.
Uh-huh.
So they didn't stay there very long. Bob Henry was operating.
Mm-hmm. Well, I really appreciate you taking this time to help me here.
Well, anything I can do, I'll be glad to.
Well, I really appreciate that, and I'm sure that the people's going to enjoy seeing this, and we really appreciate you taking time out to help us on making this film, sir.
Well,
Thank you very much.
Yeah, anytime I can give you any help, well, I know.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm here in Rutledge today and have the pleasure of interviewing Dr. L.C. Bryant, a lifelong physician and resident of Rutledge, Tennessee. And Dr. Bryant, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like for you to tell us how old you are, sir.
I'll soon be 86 years old. Born in 1901.
Could you tell us a little bit about your boyhood days in Rutledge, how things was back then?
Well, when I was born here in Rutledge and spent my childhood here and went to school here, and back at that time our school
a two-room school, and we lived a mile and a half from the school, and we walked to school every day. And there was no such thing as school buses, and no public transportation or anything of that kind. And in the wintertime, the roads were bad because there was not any improved roads of any kind. It's just an old dirt road that got real muddy in the winter. You just walked through the mud. And of course, sort of slow going. And the last part of my schooling here in Rutledge was they had just established a high school. That was the first year that there was any high school in Rutledge. That was in 1960, I believe. And my family, we moved away from here. We moved over to Sevier County, and I went to school over there some, and I spent 1 year in high school at Tusculum College in the prep department up there. And that's as far as my preliminary education was concerned.
I guess things changed a lot building wise, and I know they changed a lot in the things that y'all done and what we do today, but I guess the city of Rutledge changed a lot since those days.
Yes, it's changed a great deal. There are not too many buildings still standing in Rutledge. It was here during my childhood. The courthouse was destroyed by fire, and have a new courthouse that it's not new now, but it replaced the one that burned down years ago. Two of the churches, the Presbyterian Church and the Methodist Church, were here when I was a child. The Methodist Church was built when I was about 5 years old, I guess.
Okay. Okay, I understand that you practiced medicine a long time here in Grainger County, and would you care to discuss a little bit how that got started and take it from there?
Well, I took my pre-medical education at Tusculum College and University of Tennessee. Then I went to Vanderbilt, entered the Vanderbilt Medical School in 23 probably, and graduated from Vanderbilt Medical School in 1927. And most of my classmates, after graduated, went into internship and then on into residency and so on, but I did not. I came directly here to Rutledge and started practicing in the summer of 1927. The reason did that, there were 2 or 3 reasons which caused me to do that. One was that I owed $6,000 on my education,
Okay.
which back in 1927, $6,000 was
A lot of money.
considerable money.
Yeah, it sure was.
And another thing was that the doctor who had been here doing a major practice here, Dr. Smither, a few months before that, he had moved to Knoxville. And there was no doctor left here except Dr. Campbell, who was then a real old man.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked like a good vacancy here for a practice. So that's why I came here. And I remember quite well the first call that I made when I came here. Back in those days, most of the medical practice in the country was at home, in the home, not in the doctor's office. People didn't come to the doctor's office.
Mm-hmm.
I'd been here a few days, and I was sitting in my office doing nothing, of course, and this rather old man came in the office and says, I'm looking for Dr. Bryant. And I said, well, I'm Dr. Bryant. And he said, well, I'm Bob McElhaney, and I want you to go see my wife just as quick as you can.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, all right, Mr. McElhaney, I can go right now. What do you think's wrong with your wife? He said, well, I'll tell you, Doc, I think she's just dilapidated all over. Well, I went to see Miss McElhaney, and she wasn't in good health at all. But I doctored her the best I could, and about 10 months she got considerably better. And about 10 months after that, I delivered her of a healthy boy.
Number 1.
That was number 1. And they named him Bryant.
That's great.
Since then, I've had a whole lot of people named for me.
Right. That's great.
Some which I'm proud of, and some I'm not quite so proud of. And gradually, I got where I did more work. And developed over the years considerable obstetric practice. I delivered a lot of babies in all before I quit doing any obstetrics several years, probably 12, 15 years ago. I had delivered more than 3,400 babies in all. And out of that bunch, I'm sure that 2,500 of them were delivered in the home.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as I said several years ago, I stopped doing obstetrics and stopped doing any hospital work or surgical work at all.
Okay.
And just an office practice.
Mm-hmm.
And
I guess when you first started out, did you travel on horseback a lot, or buggies, or?
I never did. I never did own a horse to use in my practice, but we had no roads at all, no improved roads, and quite often I'd go as far as I could in my car, and they'd meet me with a horse, or sometimes a buggy, or a horse with a saddle on it,
Right.
or a wagon, or something of that kind.
Right.
And a lot of times I just have to walk. I had to
Okay, Dr. Bryant, I understand that while you was practicing medicine here that you was involved in another business. Are you here to discuss that with us?
In 1936, I was forced into the telephone business. We'd never had good telephone service here, and the equipment and the lines had gotten in bad repair, and telephone service was very poor, and a great many people had quit trying to have telephone service. And in 1936, the thing came to a head when the central office and the switchboard were destroyed by fire and put us out of any telephones at all. And there was the closest telephone was in Jefferson City, and there was a small telephone system up at Bean Station. And we had no telephone service at all, and I couldn't hardly carry on my business without a telephone.
Right.
And I tried to get the Bell system to come in and take it over, and they were not interested at all. They refused to do anything. So I finally decided that I was just going to have to do it myself. So I bought the company that was burned out had gone into bankruptcy. So I bought for a few $100s. I bought the Rutledge telephone company, and I bought a second-hand switchboard from the Aluminum Company of America. I went to Maryville and picked it up and brought it and had it installed in in a part of my office, in my reception room. And we built some new lines and connected this thing up, and started out in 1936 with 25 telephones on the system.
Right.
And after a few years, I began to build the thing up. It increased in number of subscribers, and then after quite a few years, well, right after the end of the Second World War,
Okay.
I bought a dial switchboard and replaced all of my telephones with dial telephones. We had a dial system. And several years after that, I had a good chance to sell this system, which I did. I got out of the telephone business and sold it to a company, and since then it has been sold two or three different times. It's been under different ownership several times and has grown to many times what it was when I sold it back. I sold it, I had about over 300 telephones on the system when I sold it. And when I got out of the telephone business, I devoted all my time to practicing medicine since then.
Right. Well, I'd like to share this a little bit. I had the pleasure of being at Dr. Bryant's house a while back and seen a magazine. I don't think he much wanted me to put this in the movie. I guess because of his modesty, but I happened to look at an article that was in a national magazine where they wrote a big article praising a country doctor for doing what he done about a certain telephone company. And I'd like to take this opportunity, speaking as a citizen of Grainger County, and thank you. And I think I can speak for all the people of Grainger County for the many hours and many places and hard times and 3 o'clock morning calls that you've done. It must have been hard. And I'd like to say that on behalf of the people of Grainger County.
Well, I think it was at the time that I bought and installed the dial switch. It got publicized rather widely in magazines. Publicity over the thing.
Okay, Dr. Bryant, in thinking about your past, I can't help but wonder, has anybody ever approached you with the question, you know, Dr. L.C. Bryant, if you had to do it all over again, what would it be like?
Well, I've been asked that question several times, whether if I was starting all over or whether I would come to Rutledge and lead the kind of life that I have been through. And I've never had any idea, any notion at all that I would have rather done something else. I've been satisfied with my life here, and a lot of my classmates in medical school have become famous as doctors. Some of them have become wealthy and things of that kind, but I've made a good living. I'm satisfied with what I've accomplished, and if it was to do over, I don't think that I would do it any way different.
Well, that's great. We appreciate you saying that. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for taking the time to share these memories with the people of Grainger County. And the best thing that I can say is the people of Grainger County really appreciate you. And I thank you very much for taking this time to sit and pull up a chair and talk with us.
Thank you.
Okay, Miss Smith, go ahead there.
This is an old picture of the heart of Rutledge along in the early 20s, before the road was even blacktop, old gravel road all the way through to Knoxville. This little building here is an old cafe owned by a fellow named Waller. The old Smith drugstore was in this building, part of this building here. Mr. W.B. Talley had a general merchandise store in this part of the building. And the 92 highway goes down by the side of the bank building. It's still there to Jefferson City. The building here that was one time a grocery store and later torn down and a small shoe store put in it. This building here is still standing. That's Jarnigan Motor Company that burned. If they'd inches. And on out the other side of there is a hotel that's there now. The old hotel burned in the 20s.
That's a good picture. And you're on a gravel road there.
That's right. Gravel road all the way to Knoxville. And my grandfather ran the old hotel that burned out on that end of town. And people would drive out of Knoxville on Sunday evening, come up and eat in that hotel building. And he had one long table. And I never did know how much he charged, but you went down there and the basement floor had 3 floors to the hotel, and they'd serve you old style country cooking, cornbread and chicken and ham and biscuits and green beans and all those things, and he'd beg them to eat some more, and he'd fill the town full of people on Sunday afternoon out of Knoxville that drove up here on a gravel road.
He's looking for good country food, wasn't
That's right.
he? Okay.
And Shepherd's Inn over at Dandridge was the other good place in East Tennessee at that time to eat.
Okie dokie.
Can you find out? Station 2.
Right, okay, Mr. Smith, you want to talk about this old motel here?
This building here belonged to my grandfather, and I'm not sure of the dates that it was built, but you can tell it was in service before the road was even had any gravels on it at all. And it burned, I think, in the middle 20s. Grandfather had 13 children, and my father was the oldest of the 13. And this particular road from Middle Tennessee to Washington was through Grainger County, and many prominent men like Andrew Johnson, Andrew Jackson, those people would stop at several places along this highway going to Washington, and would often stop in this particular hotel. Large hotel, had about 20 rooms in it. The dining room was downstairs, and they fed many people coming out of Knoxville on Sunday afternoon for their evening meal. Had a real fine business there until it burned and was totally destroyed.
That's a nice building for that day and time, wasn't it?
That's right, sure was. Well built.
Right.
Then later on, when it was built, you can find that out.
Right.
I'm sure.
Okay, Mr. Smith, I understand this is the second courthouse here. Would you like to talk about that a little bit? It's a beautiful building.
Yes, sir. This building was built in the late 1800s, and you can tell by the picture that the architecture was almost better than anything you see today, and it had a lot of good foundation around the bottom, made from cut stone by hand, about 3 feet long, about 12 inches thick, and 18 inches wide, all hand cut all the way around it. Marble, hand done. The bottom floor had marble floor in it, but all the top floor in the courtroom upstairs was wooden. The roof was made from slate, and it burned several hours before the fire came through. When it did come through, it burned very quickly. I was the first person there, and was able to get in this room here that W.I. Daniel was county court clerk, and got most of his things out of that room. It was a very fine building, and would be a building for many people to come and visit and enjoy, even if it was here today. This is the best picture that I've been able to get of it after searching for a long time.
And you remember what year it was when that burned down?
Burned in 1946, December.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. You ruined that thing. There you go, Rob.
Okay, now you need, when you get through there, you need, yeah, okay.
I'd like to get a copy of it.
Okay. Okay.
This building here was my father purchased for Southern Railroad that used to be the old depot after they removed the railroad that ran from Knoxville to Morristown. We bought this building in 1925 and we converted it to what was called a funeral home. About all we had was an embalming room, a display room, and an office, because at that time practically all the bodies were taken home. This building here was owned by Roy Godwin. We bought it in 1952 and remodeled it and used it for a funeral home until it burned in 1972. Now it was remodeled to this building here. It burned in 1972.
Okay, I'm here in Rutledge, Tennessee today. Very much appreciative to have Mr. Lawrence Smith, who was a lifelong resident of Rutledge and is giving his time to talk about the history of Rutledge and make this film more informational. Mr. Smith, if you don't care, I'd like you to tell us how old you are and talk about your boyhood days are in Rutledge, Tennessee.
Okay, I was born in Rutledge in 1909. 77 years old. Had a good life here. Enjoyed working with the people and helping them. Went to grammar school here and high school. Went to Carson Newman College. When my junior year, I dropped out of Carson Newman, went to pharmacy school in Georgia. Graduated there and passed the Tennessee Pharmaceutical Association examination for licensed pharmacist. Went back to Carson Newman, received my BS degree. Been active in many civic affairs in the city, county. Operated the Smith Drug Store for many years. When my son became a pharmacist, gave the drug store to him. Still active in the funeral business since 1931. Have about 56 years in the funeral business and have a very fine life. Raised 4 children, all of which are college graduates, and happily married. Have 7 grandchildren. Been very successful with having a good family, church people.
Right.
Good enough for that.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Smith, would you tell us how you got into your drugstore and funeral home business while here in Rutledge?
While I was in high school, Father made me work before school and after school, Saturdays and Sundays. But in those days, money was very difficult to make. And during vacation time of college, had to work Saturdays and Sundays and nights. Then along in the 40s, we got involved in the ambulance business. We did ambulance work for 38 years. And after my father passed away, I took over both businesses and managed to operate the 2 of them while getting more help from time to time. The way my father got started in the funeral business was rather interesting. A man came here and went into the so-called undertaking business. All he did was sell caskets. He went broke. Dad took his caskets over and started selling them. And if there was a death in the community or out in the county, that people would come in with a wagon, buy the casket, and in those days they were called coffins. Some people called them squeeze heel coffins because they were narrow at the top and wide at the shoulder and real narrow at the bottom. They'd bring a corn stalk to measure the length of the casket, take it home and call in a minister and have a funeral the next day, and usually take it out behind the house and bury it. There was no embalming in those days. So there's been quite a lot of progress made in the funeral business since the early 30s. Back in the 30s, during the Depression, everything was real cheap. A lot of funerals would not run over $150, $200.
Okay.
I remember we sold bus tickets in the drugstore to Knoxville for $25. About the time I got out of college, there was not enough business here to support my father and myself. So I went to La Follette and went to work for $100 a month. And I remember getting a meal ticket over there in a restaurant for a week for $6.
Okay.
Eat a whole week for $6.
Be hard to do that now, wouldn't
That's right. It's rather interesting how much things have changed in my lifetime. But if I had all to do over, I'd like to do the same thing again.
Well, that's great. That's great. Okay, Mr. Smith, I understand that you've been quite active in a lot of civic activities in the community as you spent your 70-something years here, and I also understand you got a great honor from Carson Newman College, which is an educational institution that you've helped a great deal through the years. And in 1982, you got a honorary doctorate degree, which was quite an honor. And I'm sure there's other civic activities that you've did while living here in Grainger County. Would you like to talk about those a little bit?
Yeah, Carson Newman's been good to me. I felt it was a fine school. Served on the board for 18 years. Was chairman of the board for 1 year. And they did give me an honorary degree, which I appreciate very much. And been active in about all the organizations in the town and the county. Deacon of Baptist Church at Rutledge, oldest member of the church. It is been a member of the church the longest of any other member. President of the Lions Club 3 times. Only 2 of us left that are charter members of the Lions Club, Mr. Bill Jarnigan and myself. Been active in trying to get the industry in the county, Grainger County Development Corporation, and trying to get such things as a nursing home and Clinch View apartment buildings, many things of that nature. It's been a real joy to try to get industry in the whole county. Most of the industries that are in the county, I helped in some way to get. My family's been a lot of help to me in a lot of ways, particularly my wife. She did most of the raising of the children since I was working long hours at both positions.
Right.
Is that right?
Right. Okay, in summing this interview up, what has it meant to you to grow up and live in Rutledge, Tennessee?
I really believe it. A small town has a lot of advantages. Cities are so impersonal and difficult. Since I spent all my life in a small community, I'd still do it again, particularly in the funeral business. We know 98% at least of the people that we serve, and you feel a part of the family. You share with them their sorrow and grief, and it makes you want to do all you can to help them. And the drug business the same way. We share their sicknesses and their good health. I would not swap a life in a small community for a life in a city. In the days of modern transportation, you can have the life of the country and be in the city within a matter of minutes almost. So I really think the small town life is the best.
Okay, I tell you, we really appreciate you taking time to do this, and I know it's going to be a lot of helpful information in this film for the people in the future that wants to look and see about the story of the history of Rutledge. Thank you very much, Mr. Smith.